Document. Part 1. In the year 2347, humanity found itself alone. The vast galaxy that had once seemed so full of possibilities now felt like an empty void. For decades, Earth had tried to fit in with the other advanced civilizations, joining the Galactic Council and participating in interstellar diplomacy. But those efforts ended when humanity was cast out, labeled as too primitive, too unpredictable, and too dangerous to coexist with the more refined species of the cosmos. The decision came after a series of events that painted Earth in the worst possible light. Misunderstandings turned into accusations, small conflicts escalated into diplomatic crises, and humanity's attempts to defend itself only made things worse. To the Council, humans were reckless, emotional, and unwilling to follow the rules. And so, with a unanimous vote, Earth was exiled from the galactic community. No trade agreements, no shared technology, no alliances, just silence. Back on Earth, the news hit hard. Panic spread across the planet as people realized what this meant. Without access to alien resources or knowledge, humanity would have to fend for itself in a universe that no longer wanted it. Food shortages became a real threat, energy supplies dwindled, and tensions between nations grew as everyone scrambled to secure their share of what little remained. It was a dark time, but not everyone gave up hope. One man who refused to surrender was Jack Monroe, a politician by trade. Jack wasn't flashy or charismatic. He was practical, calm under pressure, and known for his ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. When the Council's ruling came down, Jack stood before the United Nations Assembly and delivered a speech that would change the course of history. "We've been abandoned," he said, his voice steady, despite the weight of the moment. "But we are not defeated. If the galaxy won't help us, then we will help ourselves." Jack's words resonated deeply. People needed something to believe in, and Jack gave them a vision: self-reliance. Under his leadership, Earth's fractured nations began working together in ways they never had before. Old rivalries were set aside as governments pooled their resources and expertise. Scientists, engineers, and thinkers from every corner of the globe joined forces to tackle the challenges ahead. Slowly but surely, humanity started rebuilding, not just its infrastructure, but its spirit. At the heart of this effort was Laura Fields, a scientist whose work had long been overlooked by the Galactic Council. Laura had spent years studying quantum energy, a field dismissed by many as impractical and overly ambitious. But while the aliens turned their backs on her research, Laura pressed on, driven by the belief that her work could revolutionize human technology. Now, with Earth cut off from outside help, her ideas took center stage. Laura's breakthrough came sooner than anyone expected. By harnessing quantum fluctuations at subatomic levels, she developed a new form of propulsion capable of achieving faster-than-light travel. This wasn't just an incremental improvement over existing engines. It was a leap forward, making interstellar journeys faster, safer, and more efficient. For the first time since the exile, humanity had a way to explore the stars without relying on alien tech. The implications were enormous. Faster-than-light travel meant humanity could leave behind the solar system and venture into uncharted space. There were risks. Of course, no one knew what lay beyond the boundaries of known territory, but staying put was no longer an option. Earth's leaders agreed. Exploration was the key to survival. And so, plans were drawn up for the first mission. Beyond the edge of the galaxy, leading the expedition, would be Captain Ryan Hayes, a former Navy officer chosen for his experience and steady leadership. Ryan wasn't the kind of person to seek attention, but his reputation spoke for itself. Over the years, he had earned a name as someone who could keep a crew alive in even the most dangerous situations. His calm demeanor and quick thinking made him the perfect candidate to lead humanity's boldest endeavor yet. Ryan's crew was carefully selected to represent the best of what Earth had to offer. Among them was Dr. Emily Ross, a young astrophysicist eager to prove herself. Emily had grown up dreaming of the stars, and now she finally had the chance to touch them. Her excitement was matched only by her determination to contribute meaningfully to the mission. Then there was Lieutenant Daniel Carter, the ship's pilot. Daniel was brash and sometimes reckless, but his skills in the cockpit were unmatched. If anyone could navigate the unknown dangers of deep space, it was him. As preparations for the mission continued, the world watched with bated breath. Billions of people tuned in to broadcasts showing the construction of the spacecraft named Odyssey. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever built, a sleek, massive vessel powered by Laura's revolutionary engine. It carried state-of-the-art sensors, cutting-edge laboratories, and enough supplies to last years. Every detail had been meticulously planned, from the crew's living quarters to the emergency protocols. But not everyone shared the optimism surrounding the mission. Some argued that sending a handful of people into the unknown was reckless, especially given Earth's precarious situation. Others worried about what they might find out there. What if they encountered hostile alien species? What if they stumbled upon something they couldn't handle? These fears were valid, but they didn't stop the launch. Humanity had no choice but to take the risk. On the day of departure, crowds gathered around launch sites and watched live feeds from their homes. The atmosphere was electric, a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. As the countdown reached 0, the Odyssey roared to life, its engines glowing with an otherworldly light. For a brief moment, the entire planet held its breath. Then, with a burst of speed, the ship ascended into the sky, leaving Earth behind. For Ryan and his crew, the journey was both thrilling and daunting. They were pioneers, stepping into a part of the galaxy no human had ever seen. Their mission was clear: find habitable planets, gather resources, and establish a foothold for humanity in the stars. But as they traveled deeper into uncharted territory, they couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Strange readings appeared on their instruments, anomalies that defied explanation. It was as if the universe itself was watching them, waiting to see what they would do next. Despite the uncertainty, the crew remained focused. They conducted experiments, analyzed data, and prepared for whatever lay ahead. Each discovery brought new questions, each challenge tested their resolve. But through it all, one thing was certain: humanity was no longer content to be cast aside. Cast out by the galaxy, they had begun building something extraordinary, an empire born not of conquest, but of resilience and ingenuity. As the Odyssey disappeared into the depths of space, Earth looked on with hope. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with obstacles and dangers. But for the first time in years, humanity dared to dream again. Whatever the future held, they were ready to face it together. Document Part 2. The Odyssey sailed through the vast emptiness of space, its sleek frame cutting through the silence like a blade. Inside, the crew worked tirelessly, their days filled with experiments, data analysis, and preparation for whatever lay ahead. For Ryan Hayes, the mission was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. As captain, he bore the weight of responsibility not just for his crew, but for all of humanity. Every decision he made could shape the future of Earth itself. Dr. Emily Ross spent most of her time in the ship's lab, poring over readings from the sensors. The instruments had been picking up strange signals ever since they crossed into uncharted territory. At first, she thought it might be interference or glitches in the equipment, but as the patterns grew more consistent, she began to suspect something else. "There's something out there," she said one evening, during a meeting with Ryan and Daniel. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and unease. "It's faint, but it's definitely not random." Daniel Carter leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Could be aliens," he said with a smirk. "Or maybe just some cosmic junk floating around." Ryan didn't share Daniel's casual attitude. He knew better than to dismiss anything in this part of space. "We can't afford to take chances," he replied firmly. Keep monitoring those signals. If they get stronger, we'll investigate. The days passed. The signals did grow stronger. They seemed to pulse in rhythmic intervals, almost like a heartbeat. Emily theorized that they might be coming from a nearby planet or moon, perhaps even an artificial source. Whatever it wasn't natural. The discovery sparked a heated debate among the crew. Some argued they should alter course and investigate immediately, while others believed they should stay focused on their primary mission, finding habitable worlds. In the end, curiosity won out. Ryan decided to adjust the Odyssey's trajectory toward the source of the signals. It was a calculated risk, but one he felt was worth taking. If this turns out to be something significant, he told the crew, it could change everything for us. The destination was a small, icy moon orbiting a gas giant at the edge of a distant star system. From afar, it looked unremarkably barren wasteland covered in thick layers of ice. But as the Odyssey approached, the sensors revealed something astonishing beneath the surface. Massive structures, perfectly geometric and clearly artificial. Someone or something had built them. The crew gathered in the observation deck to stare at the images displayed on the main screen. "This changes things," Ryan said quietly, his eyes fixed on the shapes hidden under the ice. "We need to know what we're dealing with." A plan was quickly devised. Using the ship's advanced drilling equipment, they would carve a path through the ice and send a team down to explore the structures. Ryan insisted on leading the expedition himself, accompanied by Emily and Daniel. The rest of the crew would remain on the Odyssey, ready to assist if anything went wrong. Preparations took hours. The drilling process was slow and painstaking, requiring precise calculations to avoid destabilizing the ice. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a tunnel opened up, revealing a dark, cavernous expanse below. The air inside was frigid, and the walls shimmered with frost. Ryan led the way, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. Behind him, Emily scanned the surroundings with a handheld device, while Daniel kept a watchful eye on their surroundings. What they found inside took their breath away. The structures were unlike anything they had ever seen, towering spires made of a material that seemed to shift and glow faintly in the dim light. Intricate carvings covered the surfaces, depicting scenes of alien life forms and celestial bodies. There were symbols etched into the walls, too complex to decipher, but undeniably purposeful. It was clear that whoever had built this place possessed technology far beyond human understanding. This is incredible," Emily whispered, her voice trembling with awe. She moved closer to examine the carvings, her fingers brushing against the smooth surface. "These markings, they look like some kind of language." Daniel, ever the skeptic, shrugged. "Or maybe it's just decoration. Doesn't mean it's useful." Ryan ignored him, his mind racing with possibilities. "If we can figure out what these symbols mean, it could give us insight into who built this place and why." Exploring deeper into the structure, they discovered chambers filled with strange machinery. Some of it appeared dormant, while other parts hummed softly, as if still active. Emily carefully examined one of the devices, her brow furrowed in concentration. "This isn't just architecture," she said after a moment. "It's technology-advanced stuff. Look at the energy signatures. They're off the charts." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly. Lights flickered along the walls, casting eerie shadows across the room. Daniel instinctively reached for his weapon, scanning the area for threats. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. "I don't know," Ryan admitted, his hand resting on the hilt of his own sidearm. "But we need to stay alert." The tremors subsided as quickly as they had started, leaving the team shaken but unharmed. Despite the scare, Emily refused to leave. She was determined to learn more about the machines and what they could do. With Ryan's permission, she began running tests, feeding data into her portable computer. Hours passed, and slowly, pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. "It's a power source," she announced finally, her voice tinged with disbelief. "An incredibly efficient one. If we can replicate this, it could solve Earth's energy crisis overnight." Ryan nodded, though his expression remained cautious. "That's assuming we can figure out how it works, and whether it's safe to use." Their exploration continued, each new discovery raising more questions than answers. In one chamber, they found what appeared to be a control center, dominated by a large console covered in glowing buttons and levers. Emily hesitated before touching anything, knowing the risks involved. "We don't know what this does," she warned. "Activating it without understanding its purpose could be dangerous." But Daniel, growing impatient, stepped forward. "We're not going to find out by standing around staring at it," he said, reaching for one of the levers. "Wait," Ryan barked, grabbing Daniel's arm before he could pull it. "We don't know what kind of consequences this could have. We need to proceed carefully." Reluctantly, Daniel backed off, muttering under his breath. Emily shot him a grateful look before turning her attention back to the console. "I'll run more scans," she said. "Maybe I can decode some of the controls." As the hours dragged on, fatigue began to set in. The cold seeped into their bones, and the oppressive silence of the structure weighed heavily on their minds. Still, none of them wanted to leave, not yet. This place held secrets that could change the course of history, and they were determined to uncover them. Finally, exhausted but triumphant, the team returned to the Odyssey. They brought back samples of the mysterious material, recordings of the carvings, and reams of data collected from the machinery. Back on the ship, Emily immediately set to work, analyzing everything, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Ryan called a meeting with the entire crew to discuss their findings. "What we've discovered is unprecedented," he began, addressing the assembled group. "This technology is centuries ahead of anything we've developed. If we can harness it, we could leapfrog decades of progress. But we also need to be careful. We don't know who built this place or why it was abandoned." The crew listened intently, their faces reflecting a mix of excitement and apprehension. They understood the stakes. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to adapt and innovate. But rushing blindly into unknown territory could lead to disaster. Over the next few days, Emily worked tirelessly to decode the alien language and understand the function of the machines. Progress was slow, but every breakthrough brought them closer to unlocking the secrets of the icy moon. Meanwhile, Ryan plotted their next move. The Odyssey couldn't stay here indefinitely. They needed to continue their search for habitable planets, but neither could they abandon such a monumental discovery. In the end, Ryan made a decision that surprised everyone. He ordered the crew to construct a temporary base on the moon's surface, equipping it with supplies and equipment to allow for further study. A small team, including Emily, would remain behind to continue their research, while the rest of the crew pressed on with the original mission. It was a risky plan, splitting their resources and manpower, but Ryan believed it was necessary. "We're explorers," he reminded the crew during a final briefing before departure. "Our job is to push boundaries and seek knowledge, no matter how daunting the challenge. What we've found here could be the key to our future. We owe it to ourselves and to Earth to see where this path leads." With that, the Odyssey launched once again, leaving the icy moon behind. But Ryan knew they hadn't truly left it at all. Its mysteries lingered in their thoughts, driving them forward. Humanity had been cast out by the galaxy, forced to rely on its own ingenuity to survive. Now, with each step into the unknown, they were proving that resilience and determination could overcome even the greatest odds. Document Part 3. The Odyssey sailed deeper into the uncharted regions of space, its engines humming steadily as it pushed further from the icy moon they had left behind. The crew aboard the ship carried a mix of emotions: excitement over their recent discovery, but also a lingering sense of unease. They had uncovered something extraordinary on that frozen world. Something that hinted at civilizations far older and more advanced than humanity. But with every step into the unknown, new questions arose, and the weight of their mission grew heavier. Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the vast expanse of stars ahead. He was a man who rarely showed doubt, but even he couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in his gut. What they had found on the moon wasn't just ancient ruins, it was a warning. The carvings, the machines, the sheer scale of the structures, all pointed to one chilling conclusion. Whoever had built them had vanished, leaving only traces of their existence behind. Ryan wondered if humanity was walking down the same path, blindly chasing progress without considering the cost. Dr. Emily Ross, meanwhile, spent most of her time buried in data. Back on the icy moon, she had collected enough samples and recordings to keep her busy for months. Now, aboard the Odyssey, she worked tirelessly in the lab, analyzing everything she could. Her mind raced with possibilities. If they could unlock the secrets of the alien technology, it could revolutionize human life. But there was also the risk of unintended consequences. Every breakthrough came with a price, and Emily knew better than anyone how fragile the balance between innovation and destruction could be. Lieutenant Daniel Carter, on the other hand, struggled with impatience. To him, the mission felt like it was dragging on too long. He preferred action over analysis, preferring to face dangers head-on rather than pore over data and theories. "We're wasting time," he muttered one evening during a routine check of the ship's systems. "All this science stuff is fine, but we need to find a place to settle. That's what we're out here for, isn't it?" Ryan didn't respond immediately. He understood Daniel's frustration, but he also knew that rushing into things could lead to disaster. "Settling a new world isn't as simple as pointing at a planet and landing," he said finally. "We need to make sure it's safe, sustainable, and worth the effort. That takes time." Daniel rolled his eyes, but didn't argue. Deep down, he respected Ryan's leadership, even if he didn't always agree with it. Still, the tension between them lingered, a quiet undercurrent that added to the stress of the journey. As the days passed, the crew began to notice subtle changes in their the sensors picked up strange readings patterns in the energy fields around them that defied explanation. At first they thought it might be interference from nearby stars or cosmic phenomena, but the anomalies persisted, growing stronger the farther they traveled. Emily was the first to voice her concerns. "This doesn't look natural," she said during a meeting with Ryan and Daniel. "It's almost like something is guiding us." "Guiding us?" Daniel scoffed. "You think aliens are playing tour guide now?" "It's not impossible," Emily replied calmly. "We've already seen evidence of advanced civilizations. Why wouldn't they have ways of monitoring their territory or keeping intruders away?" Ryan frowned. He didn't like the idea of being watched, especially by forces they couldn't see or understand. "If someone or something is out there, we need to stay alert, keep scanning for any signs of activity, and prepare for the worst." The crew followed his orders, increasing the frequency of sensor sweeps and running simulations for potential threats. Tensions ran high, but they pressed on, driven by a mix of curiosity and necessity. Humanity's survival depended on finding a new home, and they couldn't afford to turn back now. Then, one day, the sensors detected something extraordinary, a massive object floating in the void ahead. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a colossal structure shaped like a ring, spinning slowly in the emptiness of space. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent glow, reflecting the light of distant stars. The sight was both beautiful and unsettling, filling the crew with equal parts wonder and dread. "What is that thing?" Daniel asked, his voice tinged with awe. "I don't know," Ryan admitted, "but we're going to find out." The Odyssey approached cautiously, its systems on high alert. As they drew closer, the details of the structure became clearer. It was impossibly large, dwarfing the ship by comparison. The outer surface was covered in intricate patterns, similar to the carvings they had found on the icy moon. But this was no ruin, it was alive, pulsing with energy that radiated outward in waves. Emily stared at the readings, her hands trembling slightly. "This is incredible," she whispered. "The energy output, it's beyond anything I've ever seen. If we can harness even a fraction of it." "But what is it?" Ryan interrupted, his tone sharp. "Is it a weapon, a portal, or something else entirely?" Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A voice emerged, deep and resonant, speaking in a language none of them recognized. The crew froze, their hearts pounding. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, the voice shifted, adapting to a series of tones and clicks that sounded almost mechanical. Finally, it settled into English, though the words were halting and awkward. "You are not authorized." The message sent a chill through the room. Ryan stepped forward, his voice steady, despite the knot of fear in his stomach. "We mean no harm," he said. "We're explorers from Earth. We seek knowledge and understanding." There was a long pause, as if the entity on the other end was processing his words. Then it responded, its tone colder than before. "Earth is unworthy." The insult stung, but Ryan refused to let it show. "We may not have your level of technology," he said firmly, "but we're trying to survive, to build a better future. If you have knowledge or resources that could help us, we ask for your assistance." Another pause, longer this time. Then the voice returned, its tone softer, but still guarded. "Prove your worth." The crew exchanged nervous glances. What did it mean? How were they supposed to prove themselves to an entity they didn't even understand? Ryan turned to Emily, who was already typing furiously on her console. "Can you trace the signal?" he asked. She nodded. "I think so. It's coming from inside the structure. If we send a team in, we might be able to establish direct contact." Ryan hesitated. Sending a team into an unknown alien construct was risky, especially given the ominous tone of the conversation. But they had no choice. Humanity's fate hung in the balance. "Prepare a shuttle," he ordered. "I'll lead the expedition." The shuttle detached from the Odyssey and approached the structure cautiously. As they drew near, a section of the ring opened, revealing a dark passageway leading inside. The interior was vast and labyrinthine, filled with corridors that twisted and turned in impossible ways. The air was thick with static electricity, and the walls pulsed faintly with light. As if alive, Ryan led the way, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Behind him, Emily scanned the area with her handheld device, while Daniel kept a watchful eye on their surroundings. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of their footsteps echoing off the walls. After what felt like hours, they reached a large chamber at the center of the structure. In the middle of the room stood a pedestal, glowing softly with the same iridescent light they had seen from the outside. Surrounding it were holographic projections of planets, stars, and galaxies, each one moving in perfect harmony. "This must be some kind of control center," Emily whispered, her voice filled with awe. She moved closer to the pedestal, studying it carefully. "It's emitting the same energy signature we detected earlier. This is where the power is coming from." Ryan nodded, his eyes scanning the room. "Be careful," he warned. "We don't know what will happen if we touch it." But before anyone could act, the voice returned, booming through the chamber. "You are brave." The crew froze, their hearts racing. The voice continued, its tone shifting to something almost curious. "Show me your purpose." Without hesitation, Ryan stepped forward. He spoke clearly, his words carrying the weight of humanity's hopes and fears. "We come from a planet cast out by the galaxy. We were told we weren't good enough, that we didn't belong, but we refused to give up. We're here to learn, to grow, and to prove that we deserve a place among the stars. Help us, and we will honor your trust." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the pedestal began to glow brighter. The holograms surrounding it shifted, forming images of Earth and its people. Scenes of struggle and triumph played out before their eyes, moments of war and peace, of failure and redemption. It was as if the entity was seeing humanity's story for the first time. Finally, the voice spoke again, its tone softer now. "You are worthy." A surge of relief washed over the crew. Whatever this entity was, it had judged them and found them acceptable. The pedestal emitted a final burst of light, and then the room fell silent. When they returned to the Odyssey, they discovered that the structure had begun transmitting coordinates to a nearby star system. It was a gifted chance to start anew. Document, Part 4. The Odyssey followed the coordinates transmitted by the mysterious structure, its engines humming steadily as it moved through the vast expanse of space. The crew was a mix of excitement and nervousness. They had been given a chance, a gift from an entity they barely understood, but with opportunity came uncertainty. What awaited them at the destination? Was it truly a new beginning, or another test they weren't prepared for? Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge, staring at the star system growing larger on the main screen. It was a beautiful sight, 3 suns, casting their light across a cluster of planets, each one unique in color and atmosphere. One planet, however, stood out among the rest. Its surface shimmered with blues and greens, suggesting water and vegetation. It looked almost too perfect to be real. "This has to be it," Emily Ross said softly, her eyes glued to the readings on her console. "The energy signatures match what we saw back at the ring structure. This planet is teeming with resources: water, breathable air, fertile soil. It's everything we've been looking for." Daniel Carter smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Looks like we hit the jackpot. Let's land already and start celebrating." Ryan shot him a sharp glance. "Not so fast. We don't know what's down there. For all we know, this could be someone else's territory." Emily nodded in agreement. "We need to scan the surface thoroughly before making any decisions. There could be indigenous life forms or worse, defenses left behind by whoever built that ring." The caution in their voices didn't sit well with Daniel, but he knew better than to argue with Ryan. Instead, he muttered under his breath, "Always waiting, never acting." Despite the tension, the crew worked together efficiently. Over the next several hours, they conducted detailed scans of the planet, mapping its terrain and analyzing its atmosphere. The results were promising. The planet, which they temporarily named Haven 1, appeared to be uninhabited. No signs of intelligent life, no structures, no artificial constructs. It was a blank slate, ready to be claimed. But Ryan wasn't about to take chances. He ordered a small team, including himself, Emily, and Daniel, to descend to the surface in a shuttle. Their mission was simple: gather samples, assess the environment, and determine whether Haven 1 was truly safe for colonization. As the shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere, the view outside became breathtaking. Rolling hills stretched, as far as the eye could see, dotted with lush forests and sparkling rivers. The sky was a soft lavender hue, painted with streaks of gold from the 3 suns above. It felt almost surreal, like stepping into a dream. When they landed, the air outside was crisp and clean, carrying the faint scent of flowers. Ryan stepped onto the ground first, his boots sinking slightly into the soft soil. He took a deep breath, marveling at how fresh it felt. "This place, it's incredible," he said, turning to the others. "If we can make this work, it could be humanity's second home." Emily knelt down, scooping up a handful of dirt to examine it more closely. "The soil composition is ideal for agriculture," she said excitedly. "With the right seeds, we could grow crops here easily. And look at these plants, they're unlike anything I've seen before, but they seem harmless." Daniel wandered off a short distance, scanning the horizon with his weapon drawn. "So far, so good," he called back. "No monsters jumping out at us. Maybe this really is our lucky break." For the next few hours, the team explored the area, collecting samples of soil, water, and plant life. Everything pointed to a planet, ripe for habitation. But just as they were preparing to return to the shuttle, something caught Emily's attention. She noticed a faint glow emanating from beneath a cluster of rocks nearby. Curious, she approached cautiously, brushing away the debris to reveal a small, crystalline object embedded in the ground. "What is that?" Ryan asked, joining her side. "I'm not sure," Emily replied, carefully picking it up. The crystal pulsed faintly in her hand, emitting a warm, soothing light. "It feels alive, like it's reacting to my touch." Daniel rolled his eyes. "Great, another alien artifact. Can we just stick to the mission?" Ryan ignored him, his focus entirely on the crystal. "Take it back to the ship for analysis. If it's connected to the ring structure, it might give us more insight into who or what brought us here." Back aboard the Odyssey, Emily immediately set to work studying the crystal. Hours passed as she ran tests, trying to understand its properties. Finally, she made a breakthrough. "It's some kind of communication device," she announced during a meeting with the crew. "Not only does it emit energy, but it also responds to neural impulses. Whoever created it must have intended for it to interact directly with living beings." Ryan frowned. "Do you think it's safe to use?" Emily hesitated. "I don't see any immediate danger, but I'd recommend caution. If it's meant to communicate, it might require us to initiate contact." After much deliberation, Ryan decided to proceed. Under Emily's guidance, he placed the crystal on a specially designed platform in the lab. As soon as his fingers brushed against its surface, the room was flooded with light. A holographic image materialized before them, a figure cloaked in flowing robes, its face obscured by shadows. "Travelers," the figure spoke, its voice echoing softly. "You have come far. Your courage has earned you this sanctuary. Use it wisely." Before anyone could respond, the image faded, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Ryan was the first to speak. Did that just happen?" Emily nodded slowly, her expression a mix of awe and disbelief. "It seems we've been given permission to stay. This planet's ours now." The realization hit them all at once. After years of struggle, after being cast out by the galaxy, humanity finally had a chance to start over. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on their shoulders, but it was accompanied by a sense of hope they hadn't felt in a long time. Over the next few days, the crew began laying the groundwork for colonization. Using materials from the Odyssey, they constructed temporary shelters and tested the planet's resources further. Every discovery reinforced the belief that Haven 1 was a paradise compared to the harsh conditions of Earth. The air was pure, the water untainted, and the soil rich with nutrients. It was as if the planet had been waiting for them all along. But even as they celebrated their success, doubts lingered in the back of Ryan's mind. Why had the creators of the ring structure chosen to help them? What was their true purpose in guiding humanity to this world? He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story, more challenges yet to come. One evening, as the crew gathered around a makeshift fire outside their camp, Ryan voiced his concerns. "This planet is amazing, no question about it, but we need to remember why we're here. Earth is still struggling, and we owe it to everyone back home to succeed. That means staying vigilant. We don't know what dangers might be lurking beneath the surface." Emily nodded thoughtfully. "He's right. Just because things look peaceful doesn't mean they are. We should keep exploring, keep learning. The crystal gave us access to this world, but it also raised questions. Who were those beings? What did they want from us?" Daniel shrugged, poking at the fire with a stick. "Maybe they just wanted to help. Not everything has to be complicated." "Maybe," Ryan said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "But until we know for sure, we can't afford to let our guard down." Despite the lingering uncertainties, the crew pressed on with their preparations. They established protocols for resource management, drafted plans for permanent settlements, and began cataloging every aspect of the planet's ecosystem. Each day brought new discoveries. Each night ended with a sense of accomplishment. As weeks turned into months, Haven 1 began to feel less like an alien world and more like home. The crew grew closer, bound together by shared experiences and a common goal. They laughed, argued, and supported one another, forming a bond that transcended their differences. Even Daniel, who had initially clashed with Ryan, found himself respecting the captain's leadership and dedication. Through it all, Ryan remained focused on the bigger picture. Humanity's survival depended on their efforts, and he refused to let anything stand in their way. Not fear, not doubt, not even the unknown forces watching from the shadows. Whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them head-on, united by a shared vision of a brighter future. And so, as the stars twinkled above Haven 1, the crew of the Odyssey worked tirelessly to build a foundation for humanity's rebirth. They had been cast out by the galaxy, abandoned and forgotten. But in the vast emptiness of space, they had found something extraordinary, a second chance. Against all odds, they were proving that resilience and determination could overcome even the greatest challenges, and no matter what lay ahead, they were ready to face it together. Document Part 5 Life on Haven 1 began to take shape. The crew of the Odyssey worked tirelessly, transforming the untouched planet into a place where humanity could thrive. Temporary shelters became sturdy structures, powered by renewable energy sources adapted from the alien crystal they had discovered. The air was filled with the hum of machinery and the sound of laughter as the team bonded over shared victories and small triumphs. For the first time in months, there was a sense of stability, a fragile but hopeful foundation for the future. But not everyone back on Earth shared this optimism. While the crew celebrated their progress, tensions were rising on their home planet. The Terran Federation, once united under Jack Monroe's leadership, was beginning to fracture. Senator William Drake had grown increasingly vocal in his criticism of the Federation's cautious approach. A tall, imposing man with sharp features and an even sharper tongue, Drake believed that humanity's survival depended on strength, not diplomacy or restraint. Drake's speeches resonated with many people, especially those who felt abandoned by the Federation's focus on exploration. To them, Haven 1 was too far away to matter. What good was a distant colony if it couldn't solve the immediate problems facing Earth? Food shortages, energy crises, and overcrowded cities demanded urgent solutions. And Drake argued that waiting for the Odyssey to deliver results was a luxury Earth couldn't afford. "We've been patient long enough," Drake declared during a heated session of the Federation Council. His voice boomed through the chamber, silencing murmurs of dissent. "While our leaders waste time chasing stars, real people are suffering. It's time we took matters into our own hands." His words struck a chord. Many agreed that humanity needed to act decisively, even if it meant bending or breaking the rules. Drake proposed a bold plan: militarization. He argued that Earth should build an army capable of defending itself and, if necessary, taking what it needed from others. "The galaxy cast us out because they saw us as weak," he said. "We'll show them we're anything but." Jack Monroe listened to Drake's speech with growing unease. He admired the senator's passion, but feared where it might lead. Humanity had already made enemies among the Galactic Council. Provoking conflict now would only make things worse. Still, Drake's influence was undeniable. More and more people were rallying to his cause, drawn by promises of power and security. Behind closed doors, Drake's ambitions grew darker. He began secretly funding private militias, equipping them with stolen alien technology recovered from earlier missions. These rogue factions operated outside the Federation's control, carrying out covert operations aimed at securing resources and intimidating opponents. Their actions were ruthless, often targeting vulnerable communities to send a message: resistance would not be tolerated. Laura Fields, still working tirelessly on Earth, became aware of these activities through her network of contacts. She tried to warn Jack, but he was already overwhelmed by the political chaos engulfing the Federation. "If we don't stop him, Drake will tear us apart," Laura said urgently during one of their late-night meetings. Her usually calm demeanor was replaced by barely contained frustration. "He's using fear to manipulate people, and it's working." "I know," Jack replied wearily, "but I can't fight every battle at once. We need to focus on keeping the Federation together, while finding a way to expose Drake's schemes." Laura nodded, though she wasn't convinced it would be enough. Time was running out, and Drake's grip on power was tightening. If something didn't change soon, the Federation risked collapsing entirely, and with it, any hope of unity. Meanwhile, aboard the Odyssey, Ryan Hayes remained unaware of the turmoil brewing back on Earth. His focus was entirely on Haven 1 and ensuring its success. The crew had begun planting crops, testing water purification systems, and setting up communication arrays to maintain contact with Earth. Progress was steady, but challenges remained. Strange occurrences continued to plague the planet, hinting at mysteries yet unsolved. One night, as the crew gathered around a campfire, Emily Ross voiced her concerns. "Something doesn't feel right about this place," she admitted, staring into the flames. "It's beautiful, yes, and everything we need is here. But I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched." Daniel Carter snorted dismissively. "You're just spooked because of all the weird stuff we've seen so far. This planet's safe. Stop looking for problems where there aren't any." Ryan didn't share Daniel's confidence. He trusted Emily's instincts and knew better than to ignore warning signs. "She's not wrong," he said firmly. "We've encountered enough anomalies to know this world holds secrets. Until we understand them, we stay cautious." The next morning, Emily led a small team deeper into the forest to investigate unusual readings detected by the ship's sensors. The area was dense with towering trees and thick underbrush, making navigation difficult. As they moved farther from the base camp, the air grew colder, and an eerie silence settled over the landscape. Suddenly, Emily stopped, holding up a hand to signal the others. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. At first, no one responded. Then, faintly they heard a low, rhythmic hum, almost like breathing. It seemed to come from all directions, blending with the rustling leaves and snapping twigs beneath their feet. The sound sent chills down their spines. "It's probably just wind," Daniel muttered, though his grip on his weapon tightened noticeably. Emily shook her head. "No, it's something else. Look at this." She pointed to the ground, where strange markings etched into the soil formed a circular pattern. They resembled the carvings they had found on the icy moon, but these were glowing faintly, pulsing in sync with the hum. Before anyone could react, the ground trembled violently. Trees swayed, roots cracked, and a deep rumble echoed through the forest. Panic set in as the team scrambled to retreat, but the path behind them was blocked by fallen debris. Trapped, they braced themselves for whatever was coming. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike anything they had ever seen. Its body shimmered like liquid metal, shifting and reforming with each movement. Eyes glowed within its formless mass, locking onto the humans with an intelligence that was both alien and predatory. It didn't attack immediately, instead circling them slowly, studying them. Ryan stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm," he said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "We're explorers, trying to understand this world." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the creature let out a piercing screech, causing the entire group to cover their ears in pain. Just as suddenly as it appeared, the creature vanished, melting into the shadows and leaving the team shaken but unharmed. Back at the base camp, Ryan reported the encounter to the rest of the crew. Opinions were divided. Some believed the creature was a guardian, protecting the planet from intruders. Others thought it was a remnant of the civilization that had created the ring. Structure an automated defense system gone rogue. Emily, however, had another theory. What if it's testing us? She suggested during a meeting. Every challenge we've faced since arriving here has pushed us to adapt, to prove ourselves. Maybe this planet isn't just a gift, it's a trial. Her words hung heavily in the air. If she was right, then humanity's survival depended not only on their ability to colonize Haven 1, but also on their capacity to earn its trust. Failure could mean losing everything they had worked so hard to achieve. As days turned into weeks, the crew doubled their efforts to secure the colony. They fortified their shelters, developed contingency plans for emergencies, and continued studying the planet's ecosystem. Each discovery brought new questions. Each challenge tested their resolve. But through it all, they remained united, driven by a shared belief in humanity's potential. Unbeknownst to them, events on Earth were spiraling out of control. Drake's militia had launched a series of attacks against Federation loyalists, seizing key cities and cutting off supply lines. Chaos spread across the globe, threatening to undo years of progress. Jack Monroe struggled to maintain order, calling for calm even as his authority waned. In desperation, he reached out to Ryan via the communication array on Haven 1. When Ryan received the transmission, his heart sank. Images of burning buildings, fleeing civilians, and armed soldiers flashed across the screen, accompanied by Jack's grim voice. We're losing control, Ryan. If you can find a way to help, do it quickly. Otherwise, everything we've built may collapse. Ryan stared at the screen, his mind racing. Earth's fate rested in their hands, but how could they possibly intervene from so far away? The answer came unexpectedly, in the form of the alien crystal. As Ryan held it, its glow intensified, filling the room with light. For a brief moment, he saw visions of Earth, of Haven 1, of paths yet untaken. When the light faded, Ryan knew what they had to do. Turning to the crew, he spoke with quiet determination. Earth needs us, and we're going to give them hope. With renewed purpose, the crew prepared for their most daring mission yet. They would unlock the full potential of the alien technology, harnessing its power to aid Earth while safeguarding Haven 1. It was a risky gamble, but one they had to take. Humanity's future depended on it.